Welcome, financial professionals. I'm Shane Van Patten, Regional Vice President at E4 Insurance Services, welcoming you to the Brew, building relationships every week. Thanks for tuning in. For those of you joining the Brew for the first time, welcome. We'd like to start the Brewcast by celebrating today's national days. Today is National Camp Day, which encourages people to go camping. It is also International Journalist Day. So if anybody watching this is an international journalist, this is your day. Today we'll be finishing up November's lineup, focusing on long-term care planning. I'm joined by Tim O'Connell, who manages the advanced sales team at Lincoln Financial, to discuss how employers can offer a simple and effective outside-of-the-box strategy to reward and retain certain key employees. So with that, Tim, welcome. I appreciate you taking the time to coming on here today. Before we jump in, I think we have to talk about, it's November and it's National Camp Day. I don't know where you live. I live in Minnesota, and I can tell you that most of our campgrounds are usually closed by Halloween. So I don't know. I think we need to do something like start a petition and see if we can't like change that to like a September or something, so everybody in the United States has the opportunity to take advantage of National Camp Day. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no argument for me. I mean, Camp Day, I would think would be over the summertime. I'm up here in Connecticut where you can get away with it in November, but it might be a little chillier, be bundled up. So I wouldn't mind seeing it to your point, September, or even maybe a little earlier in the year.
I love fall camping. Don't get me wrong. I love fall camping. But once we start getting into mid and late November in Minnesota here, I don't determine that fall anymore. Well, that's good. All right. Well, it is. We can't change it. We could maybe take a petition and try to change it. But let's move on because we have other really important things to talk about today. Before we jump into kind of the topic we're looking at, I want to hear a little bit more about you. You and I have talked several times before. We've shared emails, and I'm always very impressed to meet individuals that have made their way up to the manager of the advanced sales team at an insurance company, and what their path or their road looked like to get there. So if you wouldn't mind, would you give us a little bit of a background of what you've been doing in the industry and how you've gotten yourself into that position?
Sure, happy to. Yeah. So I started my career as all the folks really watching this. I was an advisor sitting across the kitchen table or dining room table with various families and working through their financial planning, peddling life insurance primarily to start. And fortunately for me, I was working in a comprehensive financial planning office, so I was able to expand my knowledge beyond that sale and really get to understand how various financial products can be implemented and using them the correct way. So we're not shoehorning anything anymore at that point. Once I had really kind of built up my knowledge, I decided that being an advisor that's a tough gig. The prospecting can get a little weary every once in a while. So made a switch and went over to the corporate side and was a wholesaler for another carrier for a handful of years and worked out in the middle of the country, actually covered Minnesota when I was doing that. And after a while, kind of got a little tired of being on the road every day, every week. So fortunately, reached out to Lincoln and was able to get a role here at Lincoln and have been heading up advanced sales now for about 7 or 8 years. I didn't come in the advanced sales space, but when the position to lead it came up, I immediately jumped at it and threw my hat in the ring. I mean, my background with the comprehensive planning, I felt gave me a good background as far as getting into the role and supporting life annuities and long-term care. So fortunately, Lincoln agreed, and it's been a great time ever since.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, so through your career, I imagine you worked with a lot of business owners, and that's kind of our topic today: business owners that have key employees. I want to go a little bit deeper on that. Yeah, I know you're in the advanced sales, and what we're talking about today might be considered somewhat advanced, but this really is kind of a simple and effective strategy that is, once you understand it, it's pretty easy to comprehend and implement. So. Let's really just jump into it. I mean, based on your experience of working with the business owners, especially at your role in the advanced sales department, what are you seeing is kind of some of the biggest issues that are keeping some of those employers up at night?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think one of the biggest things is staying competitive, right? The market is moving so quickly with new businesses popping in at all times. Being able to keep a place in the market is extremely challenging. And that really dovetails into what we're going to talk about today with respect to key employees. It doesn't really matter how good your widget is, it doesn't really matter where you're located if you don't have the folks behind the scenes or even out direct across from customers out there peddling whatever product it is that you're looking to sell. So I think that um, going through the Great Resignation was a big challenge for employers. We've obviously seen the labor market tighten up a little bit in recent times, so that's probably not as big of a concern today, but it doesn't mean it won't be tomorrow. So time management is another one, right? Making sure that the business owner can operate within the business and really not feel like they're being sucked dry. I like to think of a restaurant owner. Restaurant owners are working probably upwards of 18 hours a day in some instances, right? So
Sure.
managing that time and being as effective as you can is critical. And that really, again, goes back to that key employee. All things really boil down to that, making sure that you have the right people in place to go out and talk about your product, the right person out there to develop and build on relationships, and then the right people there in order to manage the time appropriately so that the business owner can operate the way they need to.
For sure. So again, I look at a business owner and I think, what's the ultimate goal of where you've really made a robust business? And I think it's a business that can operate while you step aside. You go on vacation for several weeks and it can still continue to operate as if you were still there, right?
Yeah.
The only way that that happens is clearly there's people that are extremely important to that organization that are have the right ability to make the good decisions. They've been given the authority to make those decisions and things of that. So maybe let's start just at the beginning. What would you define as a key employee of an organization?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think the first word that pops in my mind is critical. They are critical to the operations. And that critical component could be numerous things. It could be a top salesperson, right? Like what happens to that business if that top salesperson is no longer in place? What's the revenue change if that person isn't there? With that, kind of goes back to what I talked about in the last question around um, the relationships that can be built. I mean, if you have a key employee who really has these tight knit relationships and they leave, not only do you have to take the time now to train a new employee, but you got to take into account the amount of time it takes to rebuild some of those relationships. So, key employees to me are driving revenue and they're critical to the business thriving in the marketplace. And then we can even think about things like office managers. I mean, that goes to the time management aspect here. The office manager, a lot of times, is the one behind the scenes, really making sure that the business is operating like a well oiled machine. And to your point, allowing that business owner to step away for a week or 2 weeks and go enjoy themselves a little bit, having full confidence that that critical employee, be it the office manager, sales leader, et cetera, is there holding down the fort and there's going to be no disruptions to the business.
All right. So we have organizations, obviously some that, and probably most that have very important employees that are non-owners that could be owners as well, that we deem as key employees. Let's focus right now on just like a non-owner key employee, right? Very important person to the process, whether it's sales, whether it's internal, whatever it is. How do most businesses one, retain those non-owner key employees, and two, how do they reward them? And before you answer that, I'm guessing a lot of business owners don't just want to give up equity as as much as most key employees probably would like, but maybe touch base on that a little bit. Just some of the things that most employers typically do to try to retain and reward those key individuals.
Yeah, so certainly there's the equity component, but to your point, especially a closely held business or a family business, they're probably not looking to give equity out to an employee because they're in all likelihood looking to pass this business on to their children, for instance.
For
So
sure.
giving away equity is really sometimes just out of the picture. Now, the big key to me is you obviously have to treat your employees well. Now, when we think about that, right, there's the standard offerings. There's health insurance. There's a retirement benefit like a 401k and a potential match. Those to me are great for employees, but they're offered to all employees, right? You're not
I was just
really
saying they're
separating
all
out.
ERISA. Okay. Yep, that
Yeah,
makes
you've
sense.
got to deal with ERISA, and you're also now not rewarding the key employee. You're rewarding everybody. So does that make that key employee really feel special? So what we see are various types of compensation down the road that they're going to fund today. And that is in the form of some form of executive benefit. Now, when we think about that, oftentimes we think about the life insurance space and we think about split dollar or we think about non-qualified deferred comp. Great programs, selective, and can work very, very well for rewarding a key employee. However, to your point earlier, you could potentially deal with ERISA, and you also have added administrative costs to the business for implementing such a plan.
Would you say some of those plans also have a like a minimum contribution and where it financially would make sense to do as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, look, there's nothing wrong with those plans. We talk about split dollar and deferred comp all the time. But when we're talking about something simple and something that can reward a key employee in the long-term care space, executive bonus or Section 162 executive bonus, to me, flows really easily. We're going to eliminate some of that administrative cost. We're going to make it selective, so we only have to roll it out to the employees that we choose. And ultimately, at the end of the day, and we'll walk through this, I think, a little bit more later on, but ultimately, the employee is going to own it. So it's not something where, like a SERP, for instance, where the employer is actually owning the policy. This is truly owned by the employee, which to me means it is a true employee reward.
Oh, that's fantastic. Again, I'm just kind of thinking of it in my head. You have these companies, they have the key employees. If we don't have some sort of retention or reward strategy, to your point, they could easily be recruited from some other organization. I can't, you said it earlier, but I can't stop thinking about the cost of replacing that employee. So I've seen things on LinkedIn and other places where they have like real case studies apparently, but it talks about, hey, do you want to give your employee a raise? Or do you want to pay what the cost is to replace them if they get poached over by someone else? The raise is a lot cheaper than trying to replace it. To your point, there's a lot of different strategies based on my experience, whether it's split dollar, whether it's a non-qualified deferred comp plan. I mean, there's other things that we can always look at, but there usually is a higher premium. If we're looking at hybrid long-term care, what would be a meaningful and affordable for both the employer and the employee dollar amount or funding structure of what we'd be talking about here? Are we talking $100,000 a year into something? No, I didn't think so. I was setting you up a little bit for that.
Yeah, no, that was a softball question, right? So
exactly.
To your point, if you're dealing with a life insurance type reward like split dollar deferred comp, the premium levels are going to be relatively high because you have to pay not only for the cost of insurance, but you want to accumulate enough value in the policy so the employee, when they do retire, do access this money, there's something substantial there for them. So if you want something that substantial, you got to fund it substantially. Long-term care works a little bit differently. You're getting this instant leverage on your long-term care dollars at a lower cost when you compare premium dollars to benefit. So I view it as $10,000 a year is right around the right number. Now that's going to change based on age, of course. So, get somebody a little bit younger, maybe they don't need to go the full 10. Maybe also you're going to have something where instead of paying it for 10 years, you're going to condense it down into 5 years. So maybe you kick up a little bit more to make up that difference. But I think $10,000 on an annual basis is very reasonable.
And we could even have that paid up in 10 years, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, what we're typically looking at is sometimes we will see a single pay. They're just going to pay it off one-shot deal. That doesn't always work with what we're going to talk about today because of the income tax component that goes along with it. So sometimes it's better to spread that out. It spreads the tax hit to the employee so that they're not getting this big hit in 1 year. And then to your point, you could still pay it off fully in 10 years. And if you think about the income tax hit, we're going to be talking about minimal dollars.
Let's why don't we create an ideal client, right? I mean, we'll just brainstorm here what we think would be an ideal client. So as you've been saying this, I don't know if I've told you this, Tim, but I've had both my parents in their 60s that required long-term care. They didn't have a plan. I'm only 43 years old, but long-term care is front and center. It's something I think about very often. But I would say probably the age that I normally start seeing people thinking about long-term care is probably in that 50, 55-ish type age range. Would you say that's fair?
I think that is fair, but what is interesting about that is that it has lowered in recent times. I mean, traditionally, you were really looking at folks 60 or higher, and that age range has really trickled down into the mid-50s. And I've actually read some articles out there that millennials, for instance, are starting to understand and see the need for long-term care as well. So I think over time, you're actually going to see that age continue to drop as folks are experiencing it. I mean, we're living in this sandwich generation time where people are taking care of not only their children, but taking care of their parents. And when they see what has to go on with their parents, it may make them more inclined to go purchase for themselves at a younger age.
All right. So we're looking, I think it'd be safe to say if we have somebody between the ages of 40 to
Yeah,
60,
yeah,
right? And the employer really is looking for an idea. How can I retain him for maybe the next 5 to 10 years, depending on how we want to structure the pay on this,
yep,
and really offer a benefit that's outside of our normal fringe benefit. I think before our call, you and I have talked about this before. I see a lot of employers that want to just give extra cash, right? Extra compensation. But by time that compensation makes its way through taxes and everything else, and by time it hits their checkbook, right, there's nothing meaningful to that bonus anymore, right? There's nothing there that feels real good and makes me want to, you know, this loyalty to continue. Now, hopefully the key employee has loyalty, but there's nothing really there that ties it to an actual like plan. Uh, let's make a case study, right? I think let's go through and I'll help everybody in the audience. Tim, you own a business. What kind of business do you want to own?
Let's own a S corp restaurant. How's that? We talked restaurants before. We'll go restaurant again.
You own an S corp restaurant. I love it. You own it 100%.
All mine. Pumping out
Sh-
Italian food. Everything is delicious, and yeah, the crowds are
Shane,
coming.
Shane is your employee. I'm your guy. What am I doing in your restaurant?
Shane is my head chef, man. I mean, the most
I'm your
important
head
cog
chef.
in the entire operation.
That's scary. If I'm your head chef, this business is going to be rough here. But let's just pretend that I'm
grilled cheese for everyone, right? Like, let's make sure we have the best
let's
grilled cheese.
pretend I am an incredible chef. I'm your head chef. I have no ownership in the business. You pay me really good. I have similar benefits that everybody else in your organization has, correct?
Correct. Yeah, everyone's lined up, and we're making sure everyone's treated well and equally.
As we said, I'm 43 years old. You know that both of my parents have had long-term care events in their 60s, right? You know that this is something that's meaningful to my family. Let's talk. What are your goals as the employer, right? You
Well,
have
obviously,
Shane.
yeah, my first goal is I want you here. You're pumping out those great grilled cheeses, and we're seeing it all over local news and Facebook about how great everyone comes in and loves the food. And I don't know what I'm going to do because I can't cook anything. So if I try to replace you, who knows if it's going to taste as well? I need Shane. I need him to make sure that my business is going to operate and the food is going to continue to taste well and be consistent. So yeah, we're making sure that Shane is in house every day and ready to roll and smiling while he does it.
All right, so we're having a conversation. You really tell me how valuable I am, that you want me see me here, at least help me get through the next 10 years. But you also want to reward me for my efforts, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk. What do we want? What are you thinking about offering me, Tim?
Yeah. So Shane, we're going to have a conversation around the importance of you. You've been here for X number of years, and we've watched this restaurant grow and get better and better and more sustainable. But I think that you really are the key to this entire operation. So I'd like to offer you some form of a reward. I know that your parents have gone through a long-term care event. I feel terrible that you had to witness that and go through it with them. What do you say we set up a plan where I, as the business owner, am going to take care of you to make sure that your long-term care is funded when you need it down the road? Is that something that would be interested of interest to you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. All right, so we determined that would be very meaningful. That's very, I mean, that's in addition of my normal fringe benefits. It's not just cash that I'm not going to barely even notice after taxes. We've determined that's going to cost about $10,000 a year for 10 years. My first concern as your employee is that, hey, you know what? You're paying me really well already. I'm kind of concerned that you're going to send me another $10,000, even though you're mailing it to the insurance company. I know that they're right. They're gonna put $10,000 on my W-2, correct?
Well, not necessarily. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to have a conversation with you around long-term care. First and foremost, I know that it's near and dear to your heart and important, so that takes priority out of all of this. But secondarily, I understand also the pain of having to pay taxes. And I understand also that you want every dollar you can and you don't want to pay more to Uncle Sam. So by offering this long-term care benefit, we have an opportunity to have you not recognize the full $10,000 of income. Does that sound like something a little bit more appetizing to you rather than having to pay income tax on the full 10?
Absolutely,
All right.
absolutely. And I think that's the key part. And I don't even know how we got into the actual role play, but I'm really enjoying it. I think it's very beneficial for people to see. But I mean, if we look at those $10,000, I'm going to say, and it's probably even better than this, but for my age, I'm going to guess that less than 2,000 of that $10,000 is going to be considered the life insurance costs of that hybrid long-term care plan.
I'd say you're right about right on that. Yeah, right about spot on.
I'm going to say the remaining $8,000 is going to be considered the long-term care costs. And so if we look at this, and anybody who's watching it, when we're actually, when payroll's looking at it, or your HR department, what have you, what we're talking about here is Tim and his restaurant is going to send $10,000 directly to the insurance company, right? They're going to get the money. My W-2 is going to show up with an additional $2,000 as W-2 taxable income. However, the other $8,000 is going to show up as employer paid health insurance. All $10,000 is going to be deductible for Tim's restaurant, and only in this case 20% of that $10,000 is going to show up as additional taxable income to me. And if Tim wanted to be really, really nice, he could maybe send another, I don't know, $1,000 my way as kind of like a double bonus to make sure that, that life income is kind of a zero net cost, additional taxes out of my pocket, things of that. So we're there. Okay. So we have this and we kind of understand how it looks. The way it's set up it's paid up in 10 years. As long as I continue to work for you, you're going to continue to pay it. In 10 years, it's fully paid up. I mean, the fact that, almost 80% of the premium each year is not showing up on my W-2, but I own it. My spouse and children are the beneficiaries. There's got to be, and here's going to be the gotcha, right? That the benefits are now taxable when I need care. Is that correct?
That is not correct. The benefits are still tax-free. So to your point, the business is going to get a nice hefty deduction because we're paying compensation with respect to the life insurance portion. We're making contributions to a health benefit for the LTC portion. To your point also, employee doesn't have to recognize the 8, they're only recognizing the 2. We could potentially double up the bonus so that there's no income tax there. But the key here is that it's owned by the employee right from day one. So there's no transfer of ownership or anything like that. It's considered compensation paid, and as well as that health insurance, we maintain all the tax benefits that are associated with the money guard policy.
And being it's a non-qualified plan, we don't have to deal with ERISA requirements.
No ERISA, no administration. It is as clean as it goes. It really is just an agreement between myself, the restaurant owner, and you as my head chef.
Well, now we get into the ShamWow infomercial, but wait, there's more. I love that you're doing this for me, Tim, but what about my spouse?
Yeah, great question. And Shane, you bring up a really good point, and I recognize that if you're happy at home, you're going to be happier here. So what do you say we roll out this same offering to your spouse, and it's going to function the exact same way as far as only having the taxable income on the life portion and still receiving the long-term care benefits tax-free? Sound like a good idea?
Sounds like a fantastic idea. We've kind of gone through this, and we've gone through it pretty quick, but this is an incredible solution. Again, my brain's just thinking of individuals that have personal experience of long-term care events, right? Or they're getting into that mid-40s, mid-50s. They've buttoned up all the other areas of their financial planning. They know that the biggest potential monthly cash flow issue in retirement is going to be kind of that boogeyman, which is called the long-term care event. And here's a way that their employer can not only retain them, can reward them, but we can do it in an extremely tax-efficient way with being able to pick and choose which key employees we want to offer it to, and no administration requirement.
Yep. And to your point earlier about the cash bonuses, look, some people may want cash, but down the road, they're going to get it anyway because these hybrid long-term care policies come with a death benefit. So depending on how much LTC benefits you may or may not use, there's a realistic chance that the death benefit is going to offer an infusion of cash to your estate and to your beneficiaries as well, almost replenishing what that original bonus amount was.
Absolutely. And we don't have to be tunnel vision, right? It doesn't have to be, do you want cash or the hybrid long-term care insurance? right? We could do a combination of both, under the right plans. So this is where
Absolutely.
you really get the opportunity to sit down. So I think that was fantastic. We've talked, obviously Shane's the non-owner key employee. For Tim being the owner of the pass-through entity, not as much freedom and ability to get the same thing for yourself, correct?
Correct. Yeah. As the owner of the S corp, I'll get some form of a tax advantage, but it's not quite as good as the one that you would get out of all this. So if we're talking about having a conversation, I offer this to you. I extend the offer to your spouse as well, and everyone's happy. And now I can sit back and say, hey, I know I got my guy for at least 10 more years. I know he's going to stick around. But wait a minute, what happens if I have a long-term care event? I took care of him, but what about myself? Well, I can purchase MoneyGuard through my business. So as the business owner, I would still own the policy outright myself. I would just have the business be the payer of that under a self-employed health plan. And then from there, what I can do is take a deduction off due to the long-term care portion. I can take a deduction based on the age-based limits that the IRS offers every year. And that's a range of 10-year blocks. So the older you get, the greater the deduction available. But the beautiful part of this is it above the line deduction for me. So I don't have to worry about hitting any kind of income thresholds or anything like that. I take what that long-term care premium was, and I can take a deduction based on my age off of that amount.
That's fantastic. You decided to change the taxation of your restaurant. You're continuing to grow. Somebody tells you, hey, you really need to become a C corporation.
Yeah.
So tomorrow you become a C corporation. You are now a W-2 owner employee. Right now you decide, hey, maybe now's the time to do this long-term care plan for you, Tim. How does it work then?
Now we're right back to having that life insurance is recognized and the long-term care is not recognized. So now as the business owner, I'm getting an even greater deduction out of all this. And if I decide at some point that, hey, Shane needs some time off, I got to get this guy a sous chef. I can bring a sous chef in, but he's maybe a little bit more of a flight risk. I have the option potentially of owning it myself through the business. So I can own my business, that C Corp, can own it on the sous chef. And that way it's a little bit more of a harder handcuff to make sure they stick around. Now, obviously down the road, there's going to be some transition and we're going to want to get it into that sous chef's hands.
Sure.
But now I have a little bit more flexibility around the control factor.
Oh, this has been fantastic. Hopefully anybody who's watching is thinking something. I mean, if we were to summarize again, businesses, which business owners do you know that really have key employees that they want to retain and reward? And if you're a business and you don't have somebody that comes to mind, that might be a troubling sign in itself, right? Because again, I think the goal of a business is to be able to build it up, build the people around you, and have it where it can operate with you outside of the business, right? Being able to take time off, whether it's temporary, permanently, things of that nature. I really appreciate your time today. This was great. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you think would be important for the listeners to be aware of?
No, I mean, I think we hit on the key parts, but I would just echo a couple of things that you mentioned there. I mean, we talked earlier about my role here at Lincoln and heading up advanced sales. And I'll be honest, I mean, I'm nothing without my team. And without them, I mean, I can't handle everything that's coming in, and I'm not all knowing. Obviously, occasionally there's going to be a question I don't know. I need my team behind me. And it's no different for your business owner clients. They need their team behind them. So having those conversations around key employee rewards, so important. And when you're having those conversations, just don't forget to mention the time it takes to not only train an employee, but potentially establish those relationships. That window can be much greater than we realize sometimes. So understand the potential
what's
negative
that
impact
cost,
to your team.
right? I mean, what's that cost
Yeah.
of losing a key employee?
Yeah, it could be really bad news depending on the size of the business, the function of the key employee who left. I mean, again,
you got to go get
it's their livelihood. They need it.
What's a headhunter fee these days, right? I mean, if you got to go out and find somebody, replace them, pay a headhunter, plus pay this new salary, plus the time gap to get somebody up, right? You could have lost relationships. This is definitely a simple and effective strategy to at least be considered, right? And if anybody wants more information, feel free to reach out to your RVP. Obviously, reach out to anybody on Tim's team as well. So, Tim, again, I appreciate being here again. As we wrap up, I'd like to remind everyone that today's brew and our entire library are shared on the brew page on our website, www.e4.insurance. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to keep up with all brewcasts. They are released every Wednesday. And just as I say, they're released every Wednesday. Next week, there will be no brewcast. So we will begin December's lineup on legacy planning on December 3rd with E4's Regional Vice President, Rod Crandall. So thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next brew.